Welcome to the show. Hi, I'm Debra Baker, cybersecurity expert and fractional CISO at Trusted CISO. This is where we explore executive leadership, cyber resilience, and the evolving role of security in today's complex threat landscape. Today, I'm joined by David Gee, former Global Group CIO at HSBC and seasoned Chief Information Security Officer with over 25 years of experience leading technology and security at the highest levels. David is the author of two highly regarded books, The Aspiring CIO and CISO and A Day in the Life of a CISO. I had the privilege of serving as the technical reviewer for both books. So this conversation is especially meaningful to both of us as we reflect not only on his leadership journey, but also on the insights and experiences that shaped these publications. In this episode, we discuss career evolution, retirement, and reinvention, mentorship, consulting, the modern CISO mandate, and the growing impact of AI on cybersecurity leadership. If you're a current or aspiring CISO or CIO thinking about your long-term trajectory and the legacy you want to build, this conversation will provide a valuable perspective. So let's dive in.
I'm so excited that I'm getting to meet you. So, got your book. This is awesome.
Thanks, Debra.
All right. So, tell me about. Well, first off, it's super great to get to meet you virtually.
For sure. And thanks for your support and help in the last. It's just last year, I guess.
I was able to be the technical reviewer on both of your books, and it just was great opportunity for me. And yeah, just tell me about how you came up with the idea for the first book, and then we can talk about the second book. The first book, you're the Aspiring CIO and CISO.
I've got a little artifact. I'm not sure you can see it or not, but it's actually an old iPhone 6. What's interesting to me was I bought this phone, I guess 9 years ago, whatever it was, it came out, right? And I called it 8 years, and I wanted to retire in 8 years. That was the whole intention. So I had this goal in my mind to know that I want to do this thing, have some fun in my career. And then at the age of 65, I'm going to retire. No matter where I'm at, I'm going to retire. And so that phone was a symbolic thing to me. So to me, come back to your question is that, well, I said, okay, 18 months before I actually retired, I started to tell my wife, I should going to retire next year in June, July. And she's, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You're too young to retire. I said, no, it doesn't mean I'm going to stop work. I'm going to do other things. So the ideas of the books, to your question, actually came before I retired. I had the idea to write 3 books. So we're now working on book 3.
Okay.
And so the ideas were actually, looking forward to being an advisor and a NED and a non-executive director and other things. I said, one of the things I've enjoyed the most in my career actually is helping people and helping others get better. So I've been told and coached to say, when you're a director, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to just to get stuff done, ask questions, and that's all. But I like coaching people. I like mentoring people. So writing book 1 to me was called The Aspiring CIO and CISO. Was actually, here's my war stories. Here's what worked for me. Here's how I climbed my path. And I ended up being a CIO and CISO, and I ended up also doing a risk executive role, my last role. And that was a by design idea. And so that was all in me sort of 15 months, 12 months, I guess, of Sundays, because I was still working. I had no other capacity. And so Sunday afternoon, I was after lunch, my wife and I go to yoga, and sort of pretty chilled, right? And then 2 or 3 hours writing and just putting together my first book. But it kind of occurred to me as I was doing that it's really interesting and quite positive soul thing to give and talk about your mistakes and what worked for me. And I actually thought there's a whole bunch of people that don't write, that are CISOs, that probably should share their stories. And I had this idea, I should ask others to write them. Maybe I'll interview them, maybe I'll ask questions, maybe I'll do a draft with them. And I had this, so I started book 2 the same time as book 1. And I realized this is madness. What I needed to do was to then actually start to ask friends and friends of friends to contribute. And I realized that actually, gosh, I've been a CEO for most of my career, okay? 20 years and then a CISO for only 3 years at HSBC. So I didn't know that many CISOs. So, okay, how do I start asking friends of friends to refer. So I had this idea, maybe I'll have 10 CISOs in this book. And I said, oh, I have at 15 and about 20. And I end up with 24, 20, I can't remember the number was right. It's a crazy number. And I kept, actually, I don't have any from Europe. I don't have enough the US. I don't have enough diversity. I need to have one from Japan and one from the Middle East. And so I keep adding and I get to the point myself, I need to stop because the book was 500 pages, right? 550 pages. But it was a really fun experience, and having sometimes a Sunday afternoon, 2 hour or 60-minute session became 2 hours on Zoom to talk to someone and then record that session and then manually take that transcript of 50 pages and then try to whittle it down to something that's meaningful. Really interesting experience. Very, very tough, Debra. I say, I'm not in a hurry to do that again. It was really hard because there's so many corporate affairs teams to approve things. And there was one bank took 4 months to approve the 20 pages.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
At the White House CISOs, you know, that was probably 4 months. And that was also depending who won the elections. And so all those things you kind of like, I really want this person's contribution in there, but I can't control that. Yeah.
What was funny because they asked me, hey, do you want to be the technical reviewer on this new CISO book? And I was like, sure. Having no idea. Yeah, this book is like how big it is and everything. I was like, oh my gosh, okay. But I was like, yes, of course. And then they were like, oh, you can just skim it or whatever. And I was like, no, I don't want to skim it. I want to read it. I really want to. And so I can learn myself. And it was just, when I got into it, I was like, it was every day before work, after work. But I got it done. And of course, with the publishers, they're on you. They're like, okay, we've got this deadline and this, that, and the other.
You can imagine, Debra, you got 28 contributors in that book and you're on version 3, 4, 5. And then publishers says, we don't like that piece. We don't like that part. You need to go back to them. And oh my gosh. And then there were some parties, some CISOs who had attacks during that period of time. So for that period of 3-4 weeks, they're not talking to you. They're not answering your emails because they're busy. And then when I went back to, and I said, by the way, I understand you may have had an attack. Do you want me just to change that little paragraph for you? Because it's actually going to take me 5 minutes. Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I've been like chasing this person for weeks and he's not responding to me. And I go, I know why. He's got other priorities. That's their job, right?
Right.
But it was, for me, I kept telling to myself, is that, look, I want you to share stories and stories about your career. And I want them to be not glossy, not textbook. I want them to be things you've learned your way. And they could be different stories around different parts of cyber and just speaking your language, speaking your words. And so it's really weird because you probably know this, is that publishers always want you to speak in American English, use US English. I said, no, but this person's from the UK or this person's from here. I want them to use their language. And so I want you to have this really mixed book with actually American English and Australian English and British English or whatever, because actually that's how they speak. And we start changing that, kind of changing their voice. And I want it to be their voice. And so they had to get their head around that a little bit because that's not how they normally operate.
Yeah, that was one of the things when I was going through it, because some of them I was like, okay,
this is a mistake.
that's not right or whatever. Yeah. And then you were like, no, it's in their voice. I was like, okay, totally makes sense now. I'm just leaving those. I'm not even going to mark them. Yeah. Yeah. So that blows me. I think I remember you saying something on social media that you had the idea of doing them both. Now I'm like really blown away. 3 books. I'm like,
but I slowed down. I slowed down the second book so I could finish the first book. And then I realized, of course, there's a lot of nurturing required when you're talking to these people to get them to agree, to get their boss to agree, their corporate affairs to agree. So book 2 took me 18 months, and even to get the photographs behind me and the approval is a document, a legal document for the publisher. You use your right of this, and so for that took 3-4 months for me to just chase people up to sign documents. And so I think it was interesting. People have reached out to me to say, Dave, when you write a day in life of a CIO, and I'll be in it. And I was like, give me a break. Yes, I will write that maybe, but perhaps right now the next book will be mainly me with some contributions and quotes versus the whole chapter, where it's you've kind of once a chapter's committed, you can't stop. You got to wait for that review to be done. But yeah, no, I'll come back to that because I just couldn't put my heart into it again. I said it just took too much out of me.
Yeah, no, totally get it. I've written one book and the CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience, and I have, yeah, some ideas, and I've already gotten some people that have said, hey, can you do like more introductory to cybersecurity type of a book? And so it's still, I'm planning on it, but I'm like, I've got to do this first. I need to get this certification. I've just got some other priorities and stuff right now, but I'm like, wow, 3 books. That's where you came out of the gate. I'm so impressed.
I've written two. I've got the third book actually. I think I used my Christmas break period to actually write about 180 pages. And so I've written probably 15 chapters out of 20 something. But this third book, if I don't mind talking about it, Deborah, is actually very, very different to the first two. And the third book's actually how to sell to the CIO and CISO. Now, it's interesting because I was actually interviewing one of the, probably the second largest bank in Australia, CIO, yesterday. And so I remember starting by saying, you've got 4,000 or 5,000 vendors trying knocking your door to get access to you. And he said, yeah, they're emailing me my private phone, they're LinkedIn connecting with me, they're doing all these things to get to me. And I said, well, but how many hours in the week would you actually spend on looking at technology, innovation technology, right? That's actually in your strategy for next year, not this year, but the next year and beyond. He said, oh, yeah, 2 hours max in a week. But that's not 2 hours solid. Actually, it's 2 hours in slices because I've got my days is just nuts, right? I'm not a 9 to 5 day. It's 6, 7 days a week for me. I said, I get it, right? So they're trying to get, those 4,000 boys and girls are trying to get to that few minutes with you to sell you something. And the process is so inefficient. How do we improve that process by having you tell us what good looks like? I ask the vendors as well. I ask the analysts, right? And get the view. And how do we try to change the process so they understand how you think and actually what you're looking for? And it's quite interesting because I turned on my recorder yesterday and I got to 25, 30 pages and I'm asking him questions and trying to provoke what's interesting. But also then, in some cases, if you want to be anonymous with this stuff, you can be, because you might want to say something that's out there and not be attributed to you, which is okay. I can put that in sort of an anonymous format. But yeah, it's fun.
That's great. That's awesome. And I think it's great that you had this, okay, I'm going to retire. I'm kind of like you, but I'm like, okay, I've got this many years left. I'm like at the beginning of like the 8 years. And so then your wife's like, what in the world? I mean, if you could do what you love, and I totally get it, just to keep on.
Well, it's really important. It's when I told work people I was going to retire in 15 months or whatever it was, right? I was getting job offers literally the next few months from different big banks and can we do this job? And I was like, no, I'm actually retiring. I'm not being fired or getting out or whatever. I'm just actually retiring. So I kept getting the Corn Ferries and others bringing me in and saying, but this really big job and it's in a tax haven. And no, that's a U-turn. I've got a plan. This is my 8-year phone. So,
Right.
but it's really interesting because most of those cases, I thought about it for 5 minutes and the second time I thought about it for 1 minute. No, definitely not. Because it's something you can do and you've done in the past and you go, I don't want that. I want something different. This is my own time to be doing something that I choose to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what you're going to do. Are you doing like consulting work or you're just working on the book now?
I'm doing too much. I think I'm doing too much. I think I live in Sydney and I was in the city last week, 5 days in meetings, coffees, advisory. I do work with Bain. I do work with 7 different groups, but I say no to 99% of the people that ask me to do things because they're not what I'm interested in doing.
Yeah.
It has to. Yeah. It's going to have to be like if some vendor from Tel Aviv or Silicon Valley asks me to work with them, unless I say, wow, I buy that, I'm not going to represent them because I don't believe in it. And so, being an advisor is your brand. So it's important to maintain your standards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do cyber tech recruitment as an advisor.
Okay.
Which is interesting because it's again, goes back to book 1 and mentoring people, helping people. So I get asked, people reach out to me and I read your book or I'm looking for a job or thinking about my career and what should I be doing? And then the conversation leads into, I'm thinking of changing. And so it's kind of synergistic in a way from the development piece and trying to help people find the right career path for themselves.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love helping others and coaching them. And right now I'm working with my local community college and they have a cybersecurity program and then I get interns from there. And almost everybody wants to keep working with me, but I have to grow my business more to be able I would love to. I mean, like some of these, I mean, like the first intern I got, I told her, I said, look, you can go to Cisco or IBM and you could go straight to the top. I mean, she is that brilliant, that amazing. And yeah, so it's just like the talent is there. I mean, it's great to be able to mentor, yeah, others and help them.
And interesting, Debra, the model I have is that since I retired, I've done about 50 keynotes. So I've done the speaking circuit. And I've done probably, was it last week? I lost track of time. I did like a Bosnia, Herzegovina, Bosnia, Osaka, Belgrade. And I get them to get together. And I do one the previous week with Osaka, Melbourne, Hong Kong, New Guinea, New Zealand. And I'm doing these pro bono free briefings and providing some words and some thoughts. But I've kind of had probably 40 paid and 10, 15 unpaid, and getting that balance right, because it's not about money, but actually also that when you're doing commercial ones, they should pay you because they're charging. And then similarly with the mentoring, if I get approached by students, I help them. I'll talk to them, right? Because they're trying to find work and trying to think about their career. And if a person who wants to be a CISO approached me, I said, I'm going to charge you. I'm not going to charge you much to be discounted, right? But to make it serious and make make it valuable to you, I'll give you a nominal fee. And that way you kind of got the like 2-speed thing going on, right? Free and then paid. And you get in the right balance, I think.
Yeah, I'll need to find out about the whole paid speaking because I'm trying to break into that, and I'm still on the free. I'm still on the free, but one of these days, I'll actually.
Unless you got something to say, for sure. And the more you do it, you get those opportunities. So I was really lucky because to me, as I thought about my retirement, I said, I'm going to do these things. I'm going to be public speaking, writing some books and do some consulting, find the right boards. But then I started telling people I want to do this in 15 months time. So I sort of flagged it. And I think in my first year, I did speaking gigs in the US twice, in Japan and Hong Kong and Singapore. And it was what I planned to do. So I couldn't be more happy about having a thought pattern and then making it work and then figuring out how do I then get to a better speaking gig or a bigger speaking gig. So there's always another mountain to climb, right? There's always.
Exactly. Right. And I mean, like, you never know. Sometimes you get those surprises. Like there was a startup that I believed in their product and also a reseller of out of Israel. And then it got sold and I'm still reselling it. It's going to be merged into another product. And then, but one of the people that was involved with that is now at this venture capital firm. And so then I just told him, hey, I'll do what I can to help you and this, that, and the other. And then like to my complete surprise, like a week or two later, they said, well, we want to invite you in as like a revenue CISO advisor and a revenue partner, which was great. I mean, this was like totally, I was just like, I'll do whatever I can to help you. And I've already been blown away by some of the products that they've showed me and everything. So
That's karma, right? That's karma because you're not trying to do this to help yourself. And it's interesting that I had when I was doing my first book launch and book launch events, I can't remember, 10 book events in different places. And some guy walked up to me and said, David, you don't remember me, do you? But I reached out to you on LinkedIn 10 years ago and I asked you for some help. And this guy's now a CISO, by the way, at a bank in Australia. And so you reached out to me and you didn't know I was, but we were on the phone 5 minutes later talking about stuff and giving me advice. He still remembers that now.
Wow.
And I go, I'm sorry, I don't remember you, but I remember the conversation, but I don't remember the names and sorry. But it comes back to your karma. If you get good karma, it comes back to you. And I think, and because my first reaction was I rude? And he said, no, you were wonderful. You were very helpful and very responsive and gave me good advice. But you always to check yourself, right?
Yeah. So how has the CISO role evolved since you first entered the field?
It's I wouldn't say coming full circle. Definitely the understanding of the problem is more universal now. I kind of felt getting the role, it was more my problem, and then it needed to be, I can't solve this by myself. It needs to be others. And so I think CIOs, and I'd been a CIO, right? CIOs would distance themselves. This is yours to deal with, not mine. And I don't want that. And I understand that. You look at some of the data from Australia, for example, I think the $45 billion of impact to companies and 25% of the CISOs have been fired after breaches, but only 7% of CIOs, right? So you're on the front line.
Right.
And so I think the biggest change has been the regulators are pressing in. They're pressing in from the top down. So the boards are getting pressure to be accountable. So therefore, they're pushing that down to the CIO and the executives. And so the CISO probably feels more comfortable because he's got help, if you like. But at the same time, it doesn't go anywhere else, right? So when the pressure comes down, it still comes to you anyway, right? The regulators ask questions, and you'd have to do more. I think that the change I see in the last year, to me, this whole AI threat landscape. And I was chairing a meeting last week with a whole bunch of CIOs, and we had a whole bunch of speakers, but we saw the positive side. One of the guys was showing the work they're doing in AI that's on the positive side to create robots that talk to people and so forth. It was pretty out there. On the other side, thinking about, and I did a little piece around, Claude Anthropic has got this new co-worker, and then the open Claude side. And I said, look, this is interesting. This is all happening right now since November for open Claude. It's scary. That was 1.5 million bots talking to each other with 17,000 humans. And there was like 320 malicious prompt injections in there. And I said, and I'm giving this. And when I heard about this, I said, oh, I want to download that. Oh, no, I don't want to download that because I'm going to give my passwords to this EA, basically, to do things for me. And I get the attraction to it. But that to me, and as I talk to CISOs, we're still fighting the last war. We haven't won that last war. And there's new fronts starting over this side. It's the worrying part to me, Debra, is that all the aspects around DLP, if you like, for AI, those controls don't really exist.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the massive challenge for the next few years.
Yeah, I was listening to Steve Wilson talk, and he was saying, I said, all these AI bots, it's scary because of, right, like you said, the what they're getting access to. But then he said, if you don't go ahead and move forward with this, you're going to get left behind.
Yes.
So and so then for myself, I'm like, okay. I mean, and I was an early adopter of OpenAI, ChatGPT. And so early, they actually asked me if I wanted to be an influencer. But we won't talk about that because I said no because I was like, I focused on my CISO, my trusted CISO. Okay. Okay.
That's funny.
So yeah, I mean, I have my little GPTs, and I, at the same time, I'm like, okay, I need to be a little bit more open-minded on these other programs, like having the AI bots help you and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be every organization, every board wants to not miss out on the opportunity. And I was telling this group of CIOs recently that it doesn't matter because this whole shadow AI coming, it's here. And then I said to me, the thing to do is to make sure you're the person who's actually deciding and helping the business to onboard these bots, to train these bots, to make sure they're trained. And yeah, so it's interesting. I do worry about the ethics modules of these bots. And so if they don't have that ethics module, how do you work with that? Because in the organization in the future, you're gonna have these people and bots together, working together, and hopefully working with good teamwork. And so I said another podcast I did, there could be some sabotage, which is like, I really hate this bot because it doesn't have holidays. It doesn't give me a moment of respite. It's just always on, and it keeps duplicating. Yeah. And my job is getting more and more heavier, and I'm supposed to be overseeing this bot and the human touch element. And I'm struggling. And so how do you manage that? It's going to be tricky.
yeah. So I will say that I've seen a new product that blew me away. And what it does is it manages all these bots on your network. And based on the user, it's supposed to only have that amount and if it goes over and does something it's not supposed to, it like basically at real time's like showing you all these transactions of the data and everything and what privilege, and then it sends an alert. So like we normally do with our regular cybersecurity tools, it's doing it on AI, which is pretty amazing. So it definitely blew me away. Yeah, all of this AI, it's a little scary. It is. I mean, we need help, especially in cybersecurity.
Oh, no, we need help. We need help, but I think it's going to be accelerated faster than maybe you want to be.
Yeah, exactly. So from your book, like what story, like which resonated with you the most?
So you might recall that I did the first chapter called Sunrise, and I talked about the CISO wipes sleep out of his eyes and thinks about the day, and kind of feeling refreshed after a little bit of sleep last night, and then suddenly realized, oh no, damn, I'm going to do this today. And so I think that's the way the world works in terms of you're always on. You're trying to manage your personal stress and life. At the same time, this job is all encompassing. And so to me, I love chapter 2, which is James's story. Remember James' story? So James was the CISO in a bank in Thailand who got hacked. He got hacked in the first 4 days of his job.
Oh,
And so when I spoke to James, I said, "Oh, I love your story, James, because it's just incredible that North Koreans had a payments attack against you. You wouldn't be ready in a year's time. You wouldn't be ready in 2 years' time. But you're in the first 4 days. So you don't know anybody. You don't know your team. You
right.
don't know the management. You don't know the playbooks. You don't know your defenses. And also it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of great because you can't blame you, but they probably
Right.
will.
Right.
And so that story was so harrowing, but also so sobering because it's what cybersecurity is all about, which is how do you operate? How do you then go and get the right things done and speak to the regulators and, and then sort of calm people down? And, and he literally starts the story by saying, I was on my way to the beach resort with my family. He's got a beach house in Hua Hin in Thailand, and on his way back and told us on around. And it's not in the book, but what he did say was he just met in that week with incident response team from Israel. And so rang them straight away and said, I want you to be on the next plane to be over here to help me. And then he said to his boss and said, I've just done this. Oh, but I've already hired someone else to do that. So he didn't realize that I have 2 incident response teams to deal with. And then he said the chairman had organized another one. So they actually had 3 different brand name incident response team going to be on the boardroom table on Monday. And I said, wow, that's interesting. Who's in charge? Now you got all the brain power, right? But then does that actually help you or not? So all these little stories, I think they're funny because it's like probably in a way how not to do things, but also I understand this is serious. We need to get all hands on deck.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'd forgotten that they were going, he was going on vacation and then had to turn around and everything. I recently talked to a CISO had been of a large corporation, and I didn't realize his corporation. I knew it had gotten hacked because it was in the news and everything. It was actually not it was like one they had acquired.
Okay.
But what I didn't know is he had gotten laid off. And I was shocked because he's like well known in the industry and
Mm.
everything. But it's just they have to have a scapegoat. I mean, I hate it. I hate to see it, especially when I know there was one person in the book who's been there like for 20 years or something as a CISO. That's amazing to go through.
That's Meg. Yeah, Meg Anderson, I think did 17 years as CISO at one company, Principal Finance Group. And so
Yeah.
I think I tried to give them some honor by giving this last part 4 of the book and called it Yoda Masters, because I said they're doing something amazing because they're actually Richard Johnson in Westpac in Australia, second largest bank, 17 years in his job in one bank as CISO. Meg was 16 years. It's just, to me, it's nuts. Okay, because how do you do that? And that's when I spoke to Meg. I said, resilience is incredible. Your personal resilience. Just talk about that. You're a master of this. You've obviously managed to do your job technically, but also manage the team and then keep the board online. And wow, most of us can do it for 3 years, then we've had enough. So
Right.
just share some of those stories, because if you bottle that, you can sell that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just mind numbing that people can do that for so long in one company and survive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and doing this interview. And I'm actually getting to talk to you and not just review your book and everything, which is great. And I wanted to just say thanks so much. And I didn't know if you want to give any information so people to be able to reach out to you or just look for you on LinkedIn or.
Oh no, listen, I'm pretty open and transparent. So linking with if you want to and ask me some questions. I've had fun the last few years, Debra, as a retiree, getting questions from places like Nepal and Pakistan and Brazil and Sao Paulo. People ask you, I'm at a stage in my career, and I said, I try to help you, but sometimes I can't. But these situations of meeting people for the first time and then being asked very personal questions about their career and some advice, and then people then say, oh, by the way, how do you stay married so long? And I was like, well, I'm not qualified for that to talk about that. But I've been asked it a few times, right? Because they start to want to open up about because it's your career and your life is all connected. So you can't disconnect them easily. And so people start thinking about other things. And so, I draw a line somewhere, but sort of happy to help if I can.
That's great. That's great. Well, again, I just want to say thank you so much. And I'll be following you on LinkedIn and be reading your next book. So All right. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Kay. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to pick up a copy of my book, A CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience, available on Amazon. And remember to stay cyber resilient.